that they would run the same strategy thrice and be surprised that it doesn't work? Or are they controlled opposition? Because
I'm at the point where I think they're controlled opposition. Number one are the primaries. Democrats act fucking incompetent every time they're running an election against a Republican. But when it comes to running against someone to their left, all of a sudden the knives come out. All of a sudden the claws come out. All of a sudden they really know how to run a primary. One of the reasons why Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman lost their elections is because the Democratic Party insiders turned against them. It was AIPAC, of course, but the Democrats, the ones in the House, the ones that are supposed to have their backs, threw them under the bus. There were Democrats in the House that actually went against them and endorsed their opponents. You'll remember that when Nina Turner, who had worked for Bernie Sanders, ran for a race in Ohio, they got some AIPAC hack to come in a race that Nina Turner was winning and poured millions of dollars into it and smeared her up and down the state in order to undermine her campaign. The Democrats are not incompetent. They absolutely know how to win an election when they want to. I already thought for a while that they were maybe controlled opposition, but every day that passes, I think it even more and more, which is why I don't think that the Democrats can be reformed. When I just say controlled opposition, I just don't mean it in like a conspiratorial way, because actually it's kind of out in the open. Even if you want to put that aside, let's just talk about how much the Democrats actually hate the left. They hate progressives. They hate anybody leftist. They don't just hate leftists. They hate anyone left of center. They hate progressives. And they make that clear every single time. They want the votes of progressives, but they make it clear they hate them. And not just this election cycle, okay? This election cycle, they made it clear, because how you show someone you hate them is by ignoring them at every turn while running to pander to people that were never going to take you to the fucking dance. Democrats didn't do anything to try to actually appeal to their base. They didn't try to appeal to black women because they know black women are going to vote for them. They didn't try to appeal to black men. They just demonized them. They didn't try to appeal to Latinas or Latino men or anyone else except for white conservative women. That's the only demographic that they really tried to appeal to. Running to the right, telling Republican white women in the suburbs, oh, you can vote for us, just like do it in secret, trying to just run on Roe v. Wade, running to the right on immigration, running to the right on crime, running to the right on guns, running to the, I'll put a Republican in my cabinet, campaigning with Liz Cheney, telling Arab American voters to go fuck themselves. And anybody who pays even the slightest fucking attention to electoral politics could have told you that. Go back and watch some of my videos from before the election. I told you that. You were never going to get conservative white women. Never. So honestly, I'm tired of the crocodile tears. Why didn't the white women in the suburbs vote for? Because they never were going to. They were never going to vote for you. They're literally not hiding the ball. Conservative white women who say every fucking election cycle, we're Republican. What did you think? You were going to run and get them on abortion? No, you fundamentally misunderstand white conservative women. What you don't fucking understand is that you were never going to get them on abortion, because white conservative women, a lot of them, evangelical Christian women or raised evangelical Christian, think that abortion is murder. And they think that Democrats are baby killers. They were never going to vote for you. So why were you pandering to them when you should have been trying to get the votes of Arab American voters? When you should have been trying to get the votes of Latino men? When you should have been trying to get the votes of young progressive people? But you didn't. You didn't try to. You didn't try to get the votes of any of those demographics. You did not try to get the votes of young people, liberal, disaffected people. And that's why 13 fucking million Democrats didn't vote in 2024 that voted in 2020. Nothing is going to change because the Democrats are not going to take responsibility. And you're seeing it. You're seeing it already. Democratic operatives, people who work in Democratic politics, the politicians themselves, every single person in the media are out on a full-ass smear campaign against every demographic that they can try to scapegoat for their fucking loss. But if they would have actually cared about winning, and that's why I think they're controlled opposition, because if they really would have cared about winning, they would have known they were never going to get those fucking white women, and they would have been using their resources. Let's not forget they raised $1 billion. $1 billion. What was the money for? What was the money for if you weren't going to be using that data to target the voters you needed to get? Why weren't you targeting non-voters? millions and millions and millions of people in this country don't fucking vote at all. Why weren't you targeting them? Why weren't you using that data to try to see what Latinos were saying in order to get their votes? Because they weren't hiding the fucking ball either. I know a bunch of you demented people whose brains have been fried by identity politics want to call Latino men just machismo sexist, but the reality is if you actually fucking listen to them, they were talking about the economy. They were talking about the fact that they are struggling to pay their bills. But no, you didn't want to listen to that. You didn't want to listen to that, even though they were screaming it. There were polls. The polls were telling you that the economy was the biggest thing that Latinos were concerned about, and yet you didn't listen. You ignored them. You decided to run to the right on every single issue because you guys are so racist. You think that all Latinos care about is immigration. And instead of actually listening to their concerns, you ignored them, and then you ran to the right and tried to get the votes of conservative white people. And you can't tell me that that's just idiocy, because at a certain point it's purposeful. You guys do it every election. Every election you go for the white moderate who wasn't going to vote for you anyway, instead of ever trying to appeal to the people who actually would vote for you. At a certain point, it's not an accident. I think that they are purposely trying to lose in their controlled opposition because Democrats rather lose to a Republican, to a conservative, to a fascist, to Trump, then they would have to address the material conditions of the American people every fucking time. Because you are not going to convince me that what happened in 2020 wasn't a teachable moment for everybody to learn from if they actually wanted to, who works in Democratic politics. Bernie Sanders was winning. Bernie Sanders won Iowa, and then he won New Hampshire. And then all the media said, oh no, don't listen to that. Fuck Bernie. We hate Bernie. Oh my gosh, he's a communist. He's going to do executions in Central Park. Just wait till we get to Nevada, because all the Latinos and people of color will show that Bernie only has support amongst the whites. And then what happened? He went to Nevada and fucking crushed it. He crushed it. He won, and he won Latinos. He won working class people. And then the media really fucking freaked out. They freaked out and they said, oh shit, we got to coalesce. We got to get together. James Clyburn came out and endorsed Joe Biden. Obama and Nancy Pelosi behind the scenes started encouraging other people in the Democratic primary to drop out and consolidate around Joe Biden, because the goal at that point was to stop Bernie. It wasn't to beat Trump. It was to stop Bernie Sanders movement. And they succeeded. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of copium coming from people on the left, progressives that are like, you know what, guys, we really got to confront this, and we got to rebuild, and we got to push the Democratic Party left. It's not going to happen. The Democratic Party will not be pushed left. They tried. We tried. It failed. Just go back in recent history and look at how at every chance that the Democrats or progressives tried to push the Democratic Party left, they were crushed. They were crushed. AOC, when she won her race in 2018, it was a fucking political earthquake. And the people that helped her win that race should have been hired by Democratic operatives all over the country to be like, how did you do this? Show us how we can win more races the way that you did. What did they do? They drove her campaign manager out of DC. They drove the people that helped her win out of fucking jobs. No one wanted to hire them. No. Because Democratic consultants who are fucking grifters make millions and millions of dollars whether the Democrat loses or not. They're still going to get their second house in Virginia. So they don't really give a fuck if the Democrat wins or not. But why weren't they asking the people that helped AOC run her campaign how she did it? They didn't ask because they didn't see her win as a blueprint for how to slay going forward. They looked at it as a threat. They looked at it as something that needed to be smothered in the crib. They did everything they could to undermine Jamal Bowman's win when he won. You'll remember Hillary Clinton and Andrew Cuomo came out and endorsed Elliot Engel, trying to get Jamal Bowman not to win. Same with Cori Bush. And what happened once they got in office? They were undermined by the Democratic Party at every fucking turn, marginalized at every fucking turn. Marie Newman was a progressive that got into office, and what did they do to her? Demonized her and ran her the fuck out. Ran Katie Porter the fuck out. And Katie Porter wasn't even that left, but she was progressive, ran her out. Look at the way they treat Rashida Tlaib. They fucking hate her. In a sane world, we'd have a different party that Rashida Tlaib would be a part of. She shouldn't even be a part of the Democratic Party because they fucking despise her. And she knows it. What happened to AOC? AOC came in and could have been a turning point for the Democratic Party. And what happened instead? They marginalized her until she capitulated and got absorbed into the Democratic establishment, because those are your two choices, honestly. When you are dealing with a party that hates you and doesn't want to be progressive. You have two choices when you get elected. You either do what Marie Newman did and try to be progressive and they drive you the fuck out, or Cori Bush or Jamal Bowman, or you do what AOC did, where for her own political survival, she sold out and she got absorbed into the Democratic establishment and is now a darling of the Democratic elite. She is now used as a tool to run cover for the Democrats to be the token progressive when they are not. They hate you. They hate me. They hate anyone left of center. The Democratic Party is a corporate interest, billionaire elite party that only pretends to sometimes pander a little bit to the left when they want to get your votes. And even then, they're not even really trying that hard. They pretty much make clear that they hate you. I could go on for hours, give you so many examples of Democrats crushing progressive movements, crushing progressive candidates, crushing any move to the left. We saw it tried and it failed. The Bernie Sanders movement was the attempt. The Justice Democrats and the elections of AOC and Cori Bush and Rashida Tlaib was the attempt to move the Democratic Party to the left, and the movement failed. The Democratic Party wants to be and continues to be a party of corporate interests, of economic elites that despise the working class, and they have to be a party of hollow identity politics because there's so little that separates them from the Republicans already. They don't actually give a fuck about marginalized groups. That's why they're so quick to throw Latinos under the bus and be disgustingly racist toward them. I mean, that was quick. That's why they were so quick to just call black men sexist instead of actually listening to what black men were saying in this election cycle. The reason why that they keep trying to pander to white conservative women is because A, as I already said, they fundamentally misunderstand the conservative evangelical white woman. They don't get it. They thought that Roe v. Wade was gonna fucking work. But the other reason why they keep trying more cowbell and they keep wanting to try to pull conservative white women is because white women have more economic power. Look at the white women that actually vote for Democrats. And a lot of white women do vote for Democrats, but look at the crosstabs. The white women that do vote Democrat are highly educated and economically well off. Most poor white women do not vote for Democrats. Democrats have made a strategic choice to keep trying to pander to well-off white women because they are a party of fucking elites. And why? Somebody might ask, okay, why though? Why do they keep crushing movements like Bernie Sanders? Why won't they move left economically? Why won't they embrace these really popular policies that progressives and leftists keep telling them to? It's because they can't. They can't, because that is what their party is about. Their actual real base are rich people, are the elite, are the corporate interests, are the Israeli lobby, are the lobbies of the military-industrial complex, are the corporations. Those are the backroom scenes of the Republican Party too, but it's not a problem there because the Republicans are open, happy capitalists that love billionaires and lick the feet of Elon Musk and think all that shit is based. But the left has criticisms of the elite. The left has criticisms of corporate power and billionaires. That is the problem that the Democrats have, because the Democrats are stuck in between a rock and a hard place. They know that a lot of their base and a lot of people that would vote for Democrats have a problem with capitalism and with the elite class and with the oligarchs, in a way that Republican voters do not. So they want to get their votes, kind of, but they also know that they can't upset their real base, which are the rich and the elite and the corporations. So what do? They focus on identity and cultural issues and throw a little bit of a bone to the working class. Oh, we care about you. We're going to work on prescription drugs, like 2 of them. But like, we're going to give you a child tax credit, but then we're going to take it away. So they're constantly bumping up against these interests. They're constantly bumping up against, okay, we got to give the working class like a little bit of a crumb, but like we can't really do too much though, because like obviously we can't give them a minimum wage hike because the restaurant lobby are telling us no. Democrats kept doing things that made a voter believe, if you are paying attention, that they really weren't that concerned about democracy. Also, you don't get to talk about how you believe in democracy so much when you refuse to have a primary. They refused to have a primary. They canceled primaries in like Florida and shit, and then tried to go on TV and lie that they didn't cancel the primaries. Nancy Pelosi was all, we don't need to have a primary. And then now she's trying to pretend she didn't say that. You guys put your finger on the scales of primaries all the time, or you just cancel them, and then you talk about how you believe in democracy. You know what's actually kind of amazing is that when it comes to primaries, at least, like in the presidential election, the Republicans had a more Democratic primary than Democrats did. They canceled the primaries on behalf of Joe Biden and said, shut the fuck up, don't ask for a primary, it's Joe Biden. And then after Joe Biden finally dropped out, then Kamala Harris was selected. To think that at this point is to misunderstand the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party will not be reformed. They hate you. They hate us. They hate the left with a passion. Think about the different ways that they respond, like Republicans and Democrats. Republicans fully embrace Trumpism. They fully embrace their base. They always pander to their base. They respect their base. I mean, not really privately, behind the scenes, they fucking hate them too. But I'm talking about publicly, politically. They pretend to like them. They listen to their concerns. They talk about what their base is talking about. They didn't want Trump to win in 2016, but once he did win that primary, they were like, all right, I guess this is what it is. We got to move into Trumpism. That's being responsive to your base. Democrats have no such plans and never have. When people were telling the Democratic Party that they wanted them to get more progressive, they just called them sexist Bernie bros and move to the right, and always just move to the right. And that's exactly what's going to happen. They're not going to be reformed because, again, they fucking hate us. They're going to move to the right. This is going to be a new iteration of the Clinton era of neoliberalism for the Democratic Party. They are going to look at this election, because they're already doing it, except for Elizabeth Warren was on Twitter being like, this is no time to point fingers. No, actually it is. Actually. It's the perfect time to point fingers. And I still remember you in 2020 fucking over Bernie Sanders, so you can fuck off. Yeah, I didn't forget. But even the people that are talking about how there needs to be an autopsy about what happened, they're moving to the right, even more so. I saw people on Twitter, pundits from MSNBC, like clips on Twitter of them being like, well, I know that people said that the economy was the major thing that they were voting on, but I don't believe them. It's just because they're racist misogynists who hate women. That sounds like someone to me who has a financial interest in not learning a lesson. Because it's really hard to have an understanding of what's going on or what people really think when your paycheck depends on you misunderstanding. The lesson that they're going to take from this is the lesson that they get paid to take from this. And don't forget, when I say they, I'm also talking about the consultant industrial complex in DC. There are so many people who make millions and millions of dollars being Democratic consultants and operatives and campaign managers and advisors. They make so much money, and it really doesn't matter if the Democrat loses, they're still going to get paid. And one of those consultants said that the takeaway from this election is that they just can't run a woman again, because what happened to Hillary Clinton and what happened to Kamala Harris, this country just is not going to elect a woman. Well, that's one takeaway to have from it. And it's very convenient that you don't actually have to look at the polling about any of what people actually said. And before you come in here and try to throw yourself in front of the Democrats a poo meme style to protect them from any criticism, I know that electing a woman in this country would be an uphill battle. I understand that it's a challenge that she was always going to face by being a black woman. I saw a commentator crying about how Kamala Harris lost, and she was saying how she just really felt now that she understands that this country just despises women. And the thing is that no one's denying that this country isn't misogynistic and patriarchal. But again, to think that that was the reason why she didn't get elected, that was the only reason, there were no other factors, well, you either don't understand anything about politics, or you are probably a part of the Democratic establishment getting paid to purposely misunderstand what happened. So many of these people are repeating the exact same shit they said after Hillary Clinton lost. They believe in democracy. They believe in democracy so much that all the leadership is 950 years old and they won't fucking move over for somebody younger in a new generation, and anytime a progressive tries to get into office, they fucking crush them. Therein lies the contradiction for the Democratic Party and why they are never going to change. They don't fucking hate Bernie Sanders because they were afraid he was a communist. They hated him because he was representing the interests of the working class and the material conditions of people in this country, and that fundamentally goes against who the Democratic Party are. They are not going to change. They are not going to course correct. They are not going to get more progressive. If anybody tries to do it, they're going to fail and get crushed just like Bernie Sanders' movement did, because the Democratic Party is not there to represent the working class. They are, at the end of the day, this meme. They are there to represent capital, the ruling class, the military-industrial complex, and the foreign lobbies. They just do it with a pride flag and a Black Lives Matter sign. So trying to think at this late date that you're going to reform the Democratic Party is a waste of time. They need to go the way of the Whigs, or they need to just admit who the fuck they are and join the Republican Party, or they need to break off and just be their own party and just be honest about who they are and stop lying about who they are, so that the progressive left can maybe start their own party. And I'm not talking about communists or socialists or people who don't believe in electoral politics. I'm talking about people that are to the left of the Democratic Party, that are progressive, that still believe in electoral politics. Well, you need your own party, because trying to reform this party that is structured in order to keep you out is a fucking waste of time. And at this point, an op to ensure that working class people's interests are never represented in this country.